earrings. Those are super cute.
Thank you. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
very, very cute. Well, today I am honored to be joined by my friend Erica. We're going to be talking about unlocking the power of your voice and how to express ourselves. Yes, we can see you both. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for letting us know. Lindsay said this is definitely something I need for the next transition in my healing. I can see you both and hear you. Okay, great. Okay, Jonathan said
Love that.
perfect. Okay, so Erica, would you like to tell people a little bit more about yourself and what you do in your line of work, which goes right in line with what we're doing today?
Mm. Thank you so much. I love you as a person, and I love doing lives with you. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you everyone for joining. My name is Erika. I am an abuse and trauma survivors coach. I help survivors go from feeling numb and checked out to actually feeling happy and empowered. You know, all these, I help survivors thrive beyond external appearances, because as survivors, sometimes we're like, yes, I'm fine, but we're actually not. So that's where I come in. I help them heal, connect with themselves and their emotions, and figure out what they really want to be truly happy and fulfilled.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you think that one of the reasons that you got into the line of work that you do now and helping trauma survivors is because you had to learn how to use your voice? That they kind of go,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because once I started talking about what happened to me, that's when I realized that my voice actually had power, because there were people interested in my story. There were people telling me, oh, I've been through it as well. Like, what happened? What did you do? How did you overcome it? And I was like, oh, hold on. Like, what I say has some value, right? So yeah, totally. And I was talking to someone this morning, Mitchell, and he was telling me, I don't know what he was telling me, but I was remembering about some people that I received like random text messages from people like from 15 years ago about something I said to them that made them change their lives. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, with time, I understood that like my voice has power, and everyone's voice has power. But that definitely helped me get into this line of work and be like, oh, I can be out there and do these things.
I absolutely love that. I think there's so much power in sharing our experiences, because it makes you feel not so alone and isolated, and that other people, you know, are out there that can support you or just lend a listening ear. And I think sometimes, you know, you and I are both coaches, that we don't always have to have the answers. Like sometimes it's just sharing our story and holding space for other people. There's real healing in that.
Yeah, totally. And I think like my job as a coach is more like helping you find the answers for yourself. And I know that you do this a lot by diving deep into inner child work and getting the most out of what people have inside. So yeah, I'm totally cool with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would love to ask you, what does using your voice mean to you? Because I sat down to write down some notes and I came up with like 10 different things that don't seem very like directly correlated, but they are. And so I'm very curious to see what yours are.
Listen, I took notes as well.
Great. Okay.
Because I was like, I want this to be very like neat, because it can mean so many different things for people. But for me using my voice, it means that whatever form of expression that I use is actually aligned with who I really am, my values, and what I'm feeling. So when I have power in my voice, I'm aligned with myself. And when I don't have power in my voice, I'm completely in misalignment. So it's like being able not only like to speak for myself, but also being authentic and being vulnerable, because that's powerful as well. Yeah, it's more than like just speaking. It's like how use your voice in different ways, and it aligns with who you are. Like, I'm curious to see what you got.
Yeah, I love that. Like aligning with the truth of who you are. Like I think that's beautiful and amazing. And being vulnerable enough to stand in the strength of expressing yourself authentically, because you need all of that together in combination.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to share mine. I'm going to show everybody my notes, and I'm going to tell you why I'm showing you my notes towards the end of the session here. Okay. So our chat here. Okay. So expressing yourself authentically, standing strong in your values and in your beliefs, but also being open to change. Okay. Taking up space, like feeling safe to take up space, also feeling safe within yourself, holding boundaries, valuing your time and energy, and working through the fear of persecution and judgments from others. So that is what I wrote down.
I love that, because I was also thinking about, this is not only about you are aligned, you say the things and you wait for people to validate you, but you feeling that your voice is valid. So I really love the last part on without the fear of retaliation, because it is true. It is, yeah, I love everything that you wrote, but I feel like this topic, the voice, as I was trying to get like the tips and the strategies and everything, and it is a huge topic, and it's so related to healing so many different things. So I get why you put in there like boundaries, and because it is true.
Absolutely. And we would love to hear in the comments too what everybody was utilizing your voice or speaking with your voice, what that means to you. And we'll read some of the too as we go along.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
And speaking of experiences, I would love to hear what has happened in your life that has kind of stifled your voice, or any of the things that we spoke about, like making you feel disempowered, and things that you've had to work through to overcome to be the person that you are today and helping other people.
The story of my life? No problem. I mean, I shared the reel today about the reason why my voice was locked inside me, right? Because I've been through trauma, and I had a huge event in my life where I was abused by a person of trust. And then I went to the other person of the utmost trust and told her the truth. And nobody helped me. You know what I mean? So what that created in me was like, there is no point of saying how I think, how I feel. There is no point of saying what I'm going through, because nobody's going to help you. I was a little child. So nowadays, I think that as an adult, you kind of have a way of filtering that. But in me being a child, I was like, oh, okay, so this is it. So let's not speak out. Let's not, because there's no point in that. And then there was, you know, the abuse. When you are in an abusive situation, and I'm a survivor of complex trauma, so I lived in a household with a lot of violence. So you just learn that you have no voice, pretty much, because nobody is respecting you. It does not matter what you do. It does not matter what you say. So I felt weak. I felt really like I had no power, and that was including my voice. I think my voice was one of the things that I had more locked inside me, and it took me a couple of decades to be able to unlock my voice. And what I feel like really helped me was to go back in the past and ask pretty much the same question as you asked me now, like what happened, right? And so I went back to my past, and I was like, okay, so what happened? Why am I like this? You know, because most of the time we're like, oh, this is just who I am. Just the other day, I was talking to my partner, and I was talking about a situation, like I'm very stressed out when somebody comes into the house and stuff like that. And I'm like, why am I so stressed out? I'm very stressed out because I wasn't allowed to have people in the house, and I was judged for every single thing. Like things have like a reason, right? So for me, I have this whole experience, but then in me leaving the country I was living in, Portugal, coming here to Tenerife, have time to spend by myself and being like, am I really this person? And why am I like that? So like going back to the past and understanding why was it so hard for me to use my voice was really the thing that clicked me into starting to do some healing, that we can talk about it a little bit further on. But I would love to also like hear your point of view, and what is it, how was it to have no power to now using your powerful voice?
Absolutely. I'm going to clear my throat, and I didn't want to spook you because I know you can't see me, so I was going to tell you before. Okay, I know you have your pause in. Okay, so I love that you said too that we are not always born with these things. It's not the way we just are. Like, they're coming from somewhere. Like, babies are not born with, you know, that disempowerment, right? That's usually like programmed into us, or it comes through trauma, or it's represented from our parents, teachers, and guardians and things like that. But it's not you as a core soul being. Like, when I'm doing inner child healing with people, I'm like, where did this come from? Let's track it all the way back so that we can talk to that little girl within you, or that little boy within you, and help empower them, right? And give them that kind of like second chance, if you will. Excuse me. Speaking of clearing your voice, okay. So also, hopefully this is not like too much, but as you were talking, I could in my body like feel the pain that you had gone through when you were younger, but then at the same time I could feel your inner child inside that was like so confident and empowered. It was kind of like looking back and being like, yeah, I made it through there, and now I'm this person now, and now I help other people, and it just like radiates out of you. So I just want to reflect that back to you, first of all.
Oh, thank you.
And as you were talking about the trust thing, betrayal can really do some damage to you, especially, you know, being vulnerable and trusting other people, especially when you come from like traumatic backgrounds. And I laid down for a little smidgen of a nap before we got on. And I was talking to my community earlier about asking, you know, what headset are you wearing? Almost like a VR reality. Do you want to look through joy? Do you want to look through peace? I said, today I want to look through trusting myself. And then this voice came up in my head and said, well, we've been hurt a lot by people. And then my mind started to go through all the relationships. And I said, just because a couple people hurt us doesn't mean that there aren't amazing, loving, supporting people who we can't fully trust. We can't hinge it off of, you know, these couple of examples. But it's taking me a long time to get to that place, and using my voice and allowing myself to be vulnerable for people to show me like they are trustworthy. So again, with the inner child healing and asking, well, why do we feel that way? Why do we feel like we can't trust people? Okay. Is that representative of everybody? No. Okay. So for me, reasons that I have had to learn to empower my voice, I look really young. And I've always been in places and spaces with people who I almost see as my peers, but sometimes they haven't seen me as a peer because I look like a teenager sometimes. So I've had to work through that. Also with my son. So I have a 12-year-old son, many of you know, and people think that I'm his sister. Okay. And we look very much alike, but I look really young. And then when I tell them, oh no, I'm his mom, I can kind of see judgment come across their face of like, oh, you must have been like a teen mom, right? Even though I wasn't, I was like 23. So I mean, I was a little bit older, but even that, you can see like the judgments coming off of people. And I had to really learn how to be like, it doesn't matter what their perception of me is. What matters is the perception of myself. Right. And then a couple other things, working for other people who had or were not allowing me the space to share my ideas because of like a hierarchical system of saying, oh no, I'm the boss, I'm the manager, my ideas are best, and not really listening to like staff underneath them, even though we all had amazing ideas as well. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before.
Well, I am a woman and I'm Black. Do I have to explain?
No, I figured you would have experienced that. I know many have, yeah. And then even that layer on top of that of being a person of color, like I could see how that would be a whole nother filter lens you have to work through.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My other ones is I've been in abusive relationships before and being made feel less than, like I'm really cutting at my worthiness. And lastly, religious programming. I grew up in a very strict religious household, and it was old school biblical testament of women come second to men. And that radiated out into all areas of my life with relationships and jobs and, you know, just traversing through life. And that's something I've really had to dig through to heal. And so, you know, we're all equally worthy of one another.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You had a nice bag full of bullshit.
Yeah.
To deal with, like, oh my gosh. And I think it's a beautiful journey that we're making because we have different stories, but as you can see, pretty much any sort of trauma can get you into a point where you feel like you have no power, therefore you're not able to use your voice in a way that you would like to be using your voice. And I would love to say also, like, it is okay. I always like to say it is normal, it is okay. Don't shame yourself, don't blame yourself. The good thing is that we have the power to change these things. And we already shared with you, you can go back to your past, just like we're doing here, just digging a little bit deeper. And you can do this. I am really curious to know what other tips you have, or what is it that you've been using on yourself or on your clients to help you out with this using your voice, because as a different level comes, you have different challenges, right, in using your voice. So I'm curious to see what is it that you have, yeah, for us.
Oh, absolutely. I have more notes. I will say too, for everybody, this is a continuum spectrum. Like, I'm still currently working on expressing myself and showing up authentically and holding boundaries and all these things that me and Erika were talking about. I'm sure she is too. Like, we are doing these at new levels. Okay, so you can always empower yourself more. Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. It said, "Love you, Sage." We're appreciative of everybody being here and listening. Okay, so my tips. Okay, so I had a real fear of people judging me, and it comes from childhood trauma things, right? Overachieving, perfectionist, like feeling like I couldn't use my voice and things like that. And I always felt like people were staring at me in public. That was mainly my social anxiety and fear of judgments, right? So that's something I needed to internally shift. But something that did help me was I said, okay, if people are going to stare at me, then I'm going to dye my hair blue. I always wanted to have like super bright, colorful, fun hair. And I was like, well, at least I know that why they're staring at me if I am standing out of the crowd, right? And it made people look at me. Like, it was almost like exposure therapy. People were staring at me constantly. And as I worked through my own fear of judgments, I realized not everybody was staring at me with negative looks. Those were my own projections. A lot of people really were inspired by it. And that's why they were looking at me. So that really made me do like a flip on my like healing journey. And now, like, kids are super excited to see me, and older people even. And even when do people pass judgment? I'm like, it doesn't matter what their perception is. I love myself and I love my hair. So I'm going to keep it moving and shine in somebody else's dye. Okay. And then a couple other things. Speaking up when I don't agree. When I have an opinion that is different from others, and especially when it has to do with like helping other people, or, you know, helping in the community, or, you know, people's safety or things like that, even though it makes me very nervous because I'm not big on confrontation, little by little, I started just putting in my 2 cents here and there. And it really helped me build a container within myself of where I could do that more and more. It starts out teeny tiny, just little bitty, you know, snippets here and there, and see how it lands, and then be like, okay, I'm safe. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, I'm safe. And teaching my inner children, like, hey, it's okay. We're not living in those traumatic experiences that we did in childhood anymore. We're out of that reality, and you can let me keep you safe now, and we can speak our mind. When I have good ideas, share them. I always thought, oh, nobody's going to hear my ideas. Even if they don't want to hear my ideas, me speaking up shows somebody else that they can do it too.
Yes.
Yeah, being that leader. Reminding myself I'm worthy of love from myself and from other people. And also looking for strong female mentors. I have made a dedication of mine to find people that are very bold and vocal and kind of going against the grain, because it shows me that I can be that person too. And I start to,
I love that.
And then I shift into a person that is like that. And last, being vulnerable and relatable as a coach. And being, you know, I think sometimes as coaches, we feel like we have to present ourselves in a certain way so that we can show up as a leader. I'm like, I'm just going to be me. And then that gives other people space to be themselves, and it's not this big ta-da, and we're just having a conversation and growing and evolving together.
And I mean, this idea that we have to portray ourselves in a certain way, for me, it's kind of like ridiculous. I know that there's this kind of urge to be something else, but at the end of the day, the people are going to be on a call with you and you're going to show up. Like, so, so it's just, I'd rather be myself and just attract these people that align with whatever I am, right? Instead of just trying to be something else. I don't think that works long term. It's painful and it's disappointing for people around you, I guess.
Oh yeah, I don't think that you can hold up the mask forever. Like that's been a long journey of mine of like demasking, right? Which I
Yeah.
think comes in line with like utilizing your voice, but you can't hold that up forever. And it is very exhausting to do that. And you're kind of doing a disservice to that other person and you. But you know, this is like a whole nother topic, Erica. We can talk
We,
about
we keep coming with topics. Oh my God.
that can be talk about like if you have fear of abandonment or fear of loneliness. That's sometimes why we mask, because we feel like that's going to deepen our connections if we present ourselves a certain way. But in all reality, when I started demasking and standing in my authenticity, that's when I found my soul tribe members. That's when my business started to take off. That's when I started to be asked to be on podcasts, and when everything started really thriving in my life and opportunities is when I stopped trying to present myself in a specific way. I don't know if you've experienced that in your own life.
Yeah, when you were talking about the judgment part, I was just thinking to myself, I was so scared of being judged for obvious reasons we already shared here, but I was really, really scared of being judged. And I realized that people are going to judge no matter what.
Yeah.
And eventually something just clicked within me, and I was like, I don't care. I'm going to be myself. You know, I used to be this person that I was like, okay, let me wear simple clothes so people don't look at me. Let me not braid my hair because otherwise people will ask, how did you make the braids? Blah, blah. I didn't want to get any attention, right? So, and I felt very judged, but not in a positive way at all. But when I started being myself, I started noticing judgment more. Maybe people were righteously so judging me for some reason. I don't know. But what I know is that when I stopped, you know, I also stopped judging myself. So that helped a lot. There's so much to be said on this. But definitely being myself and being more authentic has attracted, as you said, different people into my life. The group of friends I have now has nothing to do with the people that were around me before, you know, putting myself down and putting me down and, you know, just being mean for no reason. Like, I don't have these people around anymore for different reasons, but also because of, like, I started showing up as myself, and some people were like, oh, boundaries are coming in, and they couldn't deal with it. But definitely it really helped me showing up as myself. It helped me just settle my life and the environment that I'm so grateful for being in right now. It's part of me stepping up into my authentic self. So completely agree with you, because it was the same. It was the same. The minute I was like, I don't care. This is who I am. This is how yeah, okay, look at me, no problem. And then, yeah, I just made beautiful connections out of it. And I feel peace, you know. Not trying to please anyone. My values are being honored. So I really feel more peaceful now that I'm able to be myself. Don't you feel like sometimes we believe that using our voice when it's uncomfortable, we feel like it's hard, but once you make the transition to using your voice, you realize that it was harder before because you had to spend more energy?
Absolutely. Like I used to try not to ruffle feathers, and I didn't want to stand out. Like I would try everything in my power not to stand out.
Yeah.
And kind of like mute myself, right? And I love being polarizing now because it keeps me in my high alignment. It pushes away anything that is not of service for me, right? Whether that's like friends or jobs or family, like anything like that, that is not in presence and for my highest good. Being polarizing I don't have to traverse through so much hardship anymore of all these miscommunications and like wonky relationships and all these different things. I'm just like, nope, this is what is right for me, and I'm going to keep on this path, and it's so much easier now, like you're saying. Yes.
Right. That's it is. It's just sometimes you have to get to the other side to understand, because I feel like this journey has been, for me at least, has been like blindly trusting that I'm going to get better at things. And then once I got to the other side, I was like, oh my God, this is good. I feel good. Actually, the other part was the hardest, because I had to spend a lot of energy just trying to be something that I'm not. And I would also, because I know that some people are like, yeah, this is that must feel good, but like, how do I get there?
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask if you had some like tangible tips for everybody, because I know you do on your notes.
I do have some tangible stuff for you. Okay, so we spoke about getting back to the past. That's a tangible thing, right? Yeah. You can get back to the past, figure out why you are the way you are. Remind yourself that you're safe. I love that you said that, Sage, because that's like the base of everything. Remind yourself that you're not in that situation anymore. So right now it is safe for you to use your voice, right? Even though your body may say something different, and we're gonna go there. So that was number one, I guess. I love that you also said something similar. It's on my tips, but I'll share anyways. But patiently explore ways to use your voice and start slow, right? There's no need to go on Instagram telling your story. Sometimes I feel like, since I share so much, people think that when I'm saying use your voice, it's just like go on Instagram and just tell everybody. That's not what I mean. You can start very slowly. I started with a group of friends, and then I went on my blog and I wrote a little something, and then it went to a big blog, and then people called me on podcast, and I was like, whatever, I'm just going to talk about everything. Yeah. So just patiently and and just step by step, it is okay. Thank you so much. I'm seeing the comments. Okay. And then I think there's always, as a coach, I believe that we must have like a holistic approach to everything. I would not just give you a session and just talk to you and that's it. As a coach and a yoga practitioner and everything, I believe in the physical part of things, because trauma really gets stuck in the body. And the throat is like a major center, right, where trauma gets stuck, like the throat, sometimes the hips, but we're talking about the throat. So since I come from a yoga background, for me, what really helped me was like some yoga postures. You can look it up online, to open your heart, to open your throat. You have a lot of postures that can help you with that. But one thing that I would do repeatedly that would help me out was to use mantras. I love mantras. I love Sanskrit mantras. I don't just use any random mantras. There are two particular mantras that are really cool. One is very easy. It's hum, which is the seed mantra for your throat. You can just say hum 108 times, or get one of those things to meditate. Ask me questions if you want, because I have a lot to say about this. And then there's this beautiful mantra that I told Sage I used to go to work every day, and I used to sing this mantra. And this mantra is Sat Nam, SATNAM, and it means I am truth. Truth is my essence. You can also say this as an affirmation if you don't care for mantras. But in me repeating that, I just kept reminding myself that I am truth. I can speak. I have the right to speak. So these are kind of like the practical stuff that you can even do by yourself. You can start this today. Sage, I know you're big on chakras as well. So if you wanna dive in and give us a little bit more insight, I just would love to hear you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I wrote down some more tangible tips as well.
Yeah.
So your throat chakra, that's your blue chakra in between your third eye chakra and your heart chakra. And so that is actually one of the reasons I also dyed my hair blue, because I was working on empowering my voice, and because it's a blue hue, I was like, okay, if I dye my hair blue, I constantly have to look at it. in the mirror, you know, when I'm getting ready in the car and all these things. And it's going to be a visual reminder, much like the mantras that you were saying. Like that is an auditory reminder, right? Or a subconscious reminder. Well, mine was a physical reminder. And there's really something to be said for color healing. So if you are working on your throat chakra or like your root chakra or your third eye chakra, wear the corresponding colors because we are frequency beings. And when you wear a color frequency, it does help you either visually or energetically. So I would definitely say that is very beneficial. Or speaking the mantras, like Erika was saying. Also, I love that you brought up yoga, especially like hip opening exercises, or even like singing. Like singing can also be a way to release trauma out of your body, especially in your throats. But it's also important to take care of your physical self as much as your mental state. And we do hold trauma in our bodies. So I think those are great examples. I also put boundaries with people, like tangible. I used to not hold boundaries at all with anybody. Okay. And it's because I was people pleasing. And something that I started to do that really helped me, instead of saying yes or no to people, I would say, let me get back with you on that. I still
Love
do
that.
today. I never say yes or no to anything. I say, let me get back with you, because I have childhood trauma. I have the propensity to want to people please. But when I come home and I relax my central nervous system and I can listen to my intuition and discernment, then I will call or text that person back and say, hey, I'm not going to be available, or this is not for me, or maybe I would love to do that. But I always sit with my intuition discernment first before making decisions with other people. That has been really, really beneficial. Also, when you start holding boundaries, just remember that you're holding boundaries because you want that relationship to continue. It's a lot of times people will interpret that as like, oh, you don't love me, or you're trying to push me away, or all these things. No, I am trying to benefit this relationship and benefit both of us. And I love you. And that's why I'm trying to mitigate this in a new way, right? And valuing my time and energy. It's difficult when you first start doing it, but it gets a lot easier over time, just like anything.
Yeah, boundaries are like, I mean, sometimes they're difficult to set, and a lot of people really struggle with boundaries. I love that you said that you don't say yes or no straight away, that you give yourself time. So anything that we said, saying no, setting boundaries, anything that we said that you could start doing right now, remember that you can still ground yourself before you do these things, right? That's why we have the emotional regulation practices, the spiritual practices, whatever you have going on for you as a protective practice, right? So you don't have to just blindly jump into this. You can always ground yourself before you get into these situations. And yeah, boundaries are an act of love. And as you said, that's because you want to continue with people, right? And it's sometimes people are like, yeah, but people are going to push back. Yes, because it's normal. You are bringing them a new version of you. They're not used to it. So they're going to push back. And that's fine if they are loving people, obviously. If they're toxic, but
Yeah.
if they're loving people, they're gonna be like, oh, what's happening? And that's totally normal. Just hold on, okay? Don't just let your boundary go. Hold on, and I promise you that everything's gonna be okay. If that person loves you, that they're supposed to be in your life, they're gonna respect your boundary, or you're gonna come to a point where you can, come to an agreement. What was it? I wrote, I have notes as well. It's not only you, Sage, because you keep talking. I'm like, oh my God, this one
I know,
as well.
keep on wanting to say things. I do want to expand on what you said about not jumping into things and grounding beforehand. I think that in talking about our past, I think that is so important to speak with your inner children before you go into your job, before you have conversations with your family members, before you have conversations in your interpersonal relationships with romantic partners or friends. Take a second if you do not feel safe and secure in before you go, because what ends up happening is your inner children get caught in trauma loops and they're reacting two behavioral patterns. So if you are jumping into things, it scares them, and then they kind of take over and respond like you would as as a child, right? But if you take a second and take a breath and say, hey, I love you, we are safe, let me handle this. We're going to be strong and empowered and use our voice. And then we're going to talk afterwards, and I'm going to tell you how proud I am of you that we did this. That can completely shift the trajectory of those interactions. I do that still to this day. I'm like, hey, I got you. Remember, you're safe. I love you. We're not in those spaces and places anymore. This is going to be great. Okay. Do you feel like that's something that you implement into your life, Erika?
Totally. I have to speak to my inner child all the time. Yeah. I have to be like, don't freak out. It's 2023. We're safe. We're good. We know how this goes. Just chill out, enjoy the ride. Totally. And just listening to you really brings me peace. Just you saying those words, I know you're saying it to yourself or to exemplify, but for me, it's like my inner child is like, yeah, this is true. I like that. Yeah, you can have some time. I really love that. You know what? I was having a visual of some sort on my mind. In thinking about, we're talking about using our voice in the present moment, and building a better future, I guess, with you using your voice and being this person that you want to be. But some of us are trying to walk towards something, and we never stop to look back and process what happened to us. We touched a little bit in going back to the past and what happened and everything, but I would go one step further and say, just say everything you need to say, because some of us, we have some trapped emotions and we have some things to say, right? And sometimes sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's a conversation that we want to have with certain people. Sometimes it's possible to have these conversations. Sometimes you will never get closure and you have this thing that it's like just trapped in here. But you can release it without actually having these conversations. So I would say journal about all these things that you have trapped inside you, so you can let those things go and you can create space for your voice to actually be able to manifest itself without all of these things that you are holding on to, right? That's why I think your work is important, my work is important, therapy is important, because you get these spaces to actually voice what you need to voice. And I feel like we're kind of like emptying the bag, so we can actually start communicating more clearly without so many filters. I remember when I was so ashamed that I was sexually abused. I was very ashamed and I was carrying this shame with me. So all these conversations, all the conversations I was having with people, they had this dark cloud behind me, right? And it was the filter. You said like the 3D something. So I had this filter of like, people cannot know who I really am and stuff like that. And once I released all that, there's no fear of like talking because I have nothing to hide. So I really hope this makes sense and helps some people, because it certainly helped me a lot to get rid of everything that I had inside and I could not say when I was a kid, for example.
I love that. I think that's so incredibly important, because talking about that holding trauma in our physical bodies, things that are left unsaid turn into anxiety and depression and angst and fear and all these things. Excuse me. Okay. So I have a tip that I was actually talking to a client yesterday about that helped me immensely in my life when I didn't feel like I had people that I could talk to and therapy wasn't available to me at that time. So it's like, what do you do to get that energy out? And I told her, I used to get on Facebook and message myself and voice note myself or get on a voice recorder, and I would literally vent for like 10 minutes and just talk about everything. And then sometimes you're not at a place where you can listen to it back yet. Okay.
Mhm.
And now I still do that to this day. I voice note and then I listen to it back because I can objectively look at it from a higher place of consciousness and from a more healed place. It's completely different when you're actually venting than when you're actually listening to yourself back. It's almost like you're being a counselor for self. It's
Mhm.
even if you don't listen back, just purging it, like Erika is saying, to somebody or purging it to yourself can make you like feel so much more clear-minded, and just clear energy to move forward and make different decisions.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's very
That's
helpful.
really cool.
I recommend.
You know what I used to do like 7 years ago,
Mhm.
since you spoke about this recordings. I used to be in this I was such in a shitty situation, like no money, no relationship in this island. Like, what the hell am I doing here? I don't even speak Spanish. I used to record myself and being like, so now I'm here in this situation, but soon I'll be helping people and talking about this.
Mhm. Yep. Like talking to
And
your future self.
yes,
Yeah.
and here I am talking about this.
You became future self.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's important. Just as important to look in the past as it is to look towards your future. Like, who was
yeah.
I? Who am I becoming? Right? Because it's a spectrum, and you can work backwards, you can work forwards to help yourself traverse through, this life experience. And speaking of, as we close up here, I would love to ask you, what is a piece of advice that
Mm-hmm.
you would give past you about utilizing her voice?
Mm-hmm.
Also, a piece of advice for future you, now that we're talking about future you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for my past self, I would say that you can use your voice in so many different ways, and it does not matter if they listen to you. It
Mm.
really does not matter. You are the only one who needs to listen, and it does not matter. Eventually, somebody will listen to you. So it is okay if you cannot use your voice right now. And now that I think about it, it really helped me with my writing skills because since I could not talk to people or tell the situation I was in, I was writing a lot and I kept a lot of journals. And nowadays, I think I'm kind of a good writer because of that. So never thought about that.
You are a very good writer. I
Um,
made a comment on that the other day that you're
Thank
very good.
you.
You're an editor. Yes.
Thank you. That makes me so
Yes.
happy. Such a nice compliment. Thank you. And then for future Erica, I would say keep being authentic, and always remember the purpose of your voice.
Mm. I love that. And
Yeah,
you can tell
that's what I would
you've done a lot of healing too. Like, you just exude like that divinity and that strength and courage and compassion, all those things, right? But I know that took a lot of hard work to get there.
say. Oh
But it's worth
gosh.
it. It's
Yeah,
worth it. It is worth it to do.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, and I want to hear yours now.
Oh, that's
Curious.
great thing. I was listening to yours. I wasn't really thinking. Okay. Um, okay, so for my younger self, I would say, okay, and this is my belief system, okay, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody is a different reflection of you, okay, and they're here to help you grow and evolve and become strong and courageous and bold and all those things. So one of the things that I was so worried about was being a fool in front of other people, or being embarrassed or being judged and everything. And then one day I was thinking, like, why would I be embarrassed of being in front of me or talking to me? These different reflections of me, they're just me at the end of the day. They're just
Yeah.
different personalities of me, different reflections of me. And so that really brought me a lot of healing when I had that insight, that realization. So I would go back in time and tell her, or I'm telling her now. And then future me, I would say keep on being bright and colorful even into older age. Because
Oh, I love that.
yeah, I
I
think there's a
love
lot
that.
of like ageism with like, oh, you can't dress like sparkly and funky and colorful and all these things. And I'm like, keep on, do it. all the way through.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything less from you. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
keep going.
I have older people comment to me all the time and say like, "Oh, I wish that I could have dyed my hair like that, or I wish I could do that now." I'm like, "Do it, do it."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Do it now." I'm like, if you're 70, do it right now. Like, there's nothing stopping you. It's just the judgment and the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I think this was healing. I think this was kind of healing for me. I love this conversation.
same here. Do you have any clothing thoughts for anybody or for everybody before we finish up?
I would say, I'm not going to say anything very special, but I would love to see if somebody has any like questions, or
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just going through the comments and see if somebody wants to ask us something.
Teresa
But
here said the other day I told my sister how much I wish to be supported, even thought it through. And even though it was through text, my throat closed up so much that it was painful. I realized how important it was to speak into existence and how much resistance there was. Yeah, like Erika was saying earlier, it can be really difficult when you first start doing that with people, but sometimes you got to choose yourself. Sometimes, this can be a mad, uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
But my peace and my serenity is going to be up-leveled on the other side.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And that's amazing for like you being brave enough to say how you want to be supported. Now it's just a matter of opening yourself up with some of the tips that we shared, maybe, to receive that what you asked for, like with an open heart. And that's okay. That's beautiful. I love that.
Casey said recently got sick and have been doing a lot of communication work. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Okay. All right. I wonder how that looked like. I know that theater is very, very useful, but I've done theater for a couple of years, and that wasn't enough for me, but I do know that it helps.
Did you say theater?
Yeah.
What do you mean by theater?
Like improv, theater courses, and acting. I should have said acting. It's easier to understand. But I was like, the specific course was theater and television, whatever.
And that's a beautiful example of like how different ways that you can learn to communicate and strengthen your voice. Maybe it is through like improv or acting or, reading to kids at the library. Like, however you want to do it. Make it fun and make it magical and whimsical so that when those harder conversations do come around, it's easier. And Casey said, and ways to express myself with different senses, my taste and smell are gone. Okay, so we're having to learn how to communicate in different ways then.
That's interesting. There's a lesson to be learned. As always, every time I get sick, it's like I do the doctor's whatever thing, but I also talk to my body because there's always something to be told about being sick.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Casey.
I try and go talk to my back. Hey, back, why are you hurting? What do you need right now? What do you need?
What have I done now?
Well, Erika, where can everybody find you to communicate?
You can communicate with me as you wish. Send me a DM, an audio, wherever. I'm at Erika's Healing Space here on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. And that's where you can find and know more things about me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Do you have a website?
I do. It's called akirelife.com.
Beautiful.
Should I write it down? Yeah, I'll write it down.
Yeah, if you want to put it in the comments for everybody, that'd be great.
There you go.
Great. Well, thank you, Erika, so much, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. Hopefully this helps open up people's throat chakras and helps you feel a little bit more empowered and that you can talk to your inner children and empower them too.
Yeah, thank you so much for everybody, for joining, and thank you so much, Sage. You're amazing. You're amazing. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you, Erika. I think the same thing about you. All right, everybody. It will be up later, and we love y'all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you. Bye.